You got the distribution call, you got the placement, you did everything right. And somewhere between the purchase order and the shelf, something went sideways. Your product isn't there, or it's there, but it's wrong. Or nobody can tell you either way. Every CPG brand hits this wall. Most of them hit it more than once. I'm Jordan Karcher, founder and CEO of Eileen. Know Thy Shelf is a show for founders and CPG superstars who are done taking anyone's word for what's happening at the shelf. Real stories, real data, one question underneath all of it. Your product is listed as in stock. Is it though? Okay, so let's get into it. Today, I'm extremely excited to have Lisa Curtis on the show. Lisa has built an amazing brand. She comes with a really interesting background. So just to get things started, Lisa, I thought for you to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how did you come into the CPG world in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Kuli Kuli Foods. I actually started this company 12 years ago. It's been an amazing journey. I started it after working in the Peace Corps. So I was a volunteer in a rural village in West Africa. Short version of a long story is I felt like I wasn't getting the right nutrients in my diet. A few women there introduced me to this superfood called moringa, totally transformed my health. I was like, wow, there's so many amazing plants that are eaten all over the world and just haven't made it to the US. And how can we partner with small grower communities to grow, the highest quality medicinal plants and sell them in the US in the forms of wellness products. So that has been what Kuli Kuli's been doing for the past 12 years.
So take me back to the Peace Corps days. What was that experience like? So even before getting into it, I think a really interesting, experience anyone can undertake. Can you talk a bit about your times in Africa and what that work was like?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, truly life-changing. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing what I am today without it. I think the things that Peace Corps taught me are very relevant to running a business in ways that you probably wouldn't expect. I think there was an element of you have to be really scrappy and you have to deal with a lot of unknowns. I was placed at a 2,000 person village and I didn't speak the language and nobody spoke English. And so really figuring out how to navigate that, how to be successful in that, how to, I was a community development volunteer. I was placed in a mayor's office. Niger had a coup about a month before I arrived, so there was no mayor. So figuring out, okay, what do I do all day? The job I signed up for doesn't exist. All right, let's go figure it out. And I think in some ways being a CEO is the job you signed up for, it doesn't exist because there's no on paper, here's what a food CEO should do every single day. You really have to figure it out. So it really impacted me in a lot of ways. And I think I learned so much about just resilience and community and the power of building community. And then from a health perspective, I just got hooked on this superfood moringa. And I was like, wow, this is transformative. And how is it that I didn't know about it? And turns out there's a lot of what we at Kuli Kuli call climate smart community grown superfoods that we just don't really know about here in the US.
Interesting. And can you talk a bit about moringa? Just I've encountered it. It's become more popular, I think, as an ingredient, probably thanks to you. But just in general, can you talk about the plant, the flavor, anything that kind of helps someone understand moringa that has never had it?
Yeah, I will say, Kuli Kuli is about 70% of the market share for moringa. So I think when you say probably thanks to you, that's what I will brush my shoulders off. I think it was indeed thanks to us. So moringa is an amazing tree. It grows all over the tropics. The leaves are more nutritious than kale. They provide a complete plant protein. So great for vegetarians, vegans, anyone looking to eat a more plant-based diet. Also very high in iron. And then from a medicinal perspective, it's used all over the world to support lowering blood sugar levels. It's, known in Central and South America as kind of like a natural treatment for diabetes. It has the same mechanism of activation in your body as broccoli sprouts does. So, our leading scientific advisor used to run the chemoprotective center at Johns Hopkins, where they were studying the impact of broccoli sprouts and moringa on a wide variety of things from lowering inflammation all the way to supporting cancer patients. So it's a really, really cool plant. We obviously don't make those claims on back, but there's so much both in the Western research. There's been more and more clinical studies with it, and in the ways that it's been used for thousands of years across Africa, India, and South America.
What's a traditional way of consuming it? Is it just eating the leaves, or is there kind of recipe-driven approach?
Yeah. So our company name, Kuli Kuli, actually comes from the name of a peanut snack in Niger, which is a way that moringa leaves are often mixed in with this peanut snack to make kind of little like a ball bite. And that was how I was first introduced to moringa. That was a thing that I started eating for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, wait a minute, what just happened? My health has like totally transformed and felt like I had so much more energy that I just like my digestion really improved. But I would say those are the two things that kind of have held true across Kuli Kuli's journey. We find that our consumers talk about like the caffeine-free energy and the digestive benefits of moringa. And I was kind of obsessed with this like Kuli Kuli moringa snack. And actually, the jumping ahead a little bit, what I ended up bringing back to the US and what I started selling very small scale at farmers markets was that same Kuli Kuli moringa snack. And we kind of had these little balls and then they turned into bars. And then it sort of like navigated away from like being a peanut snack into like an almond and date based moringa bar, but we kept the name because everyone was like, oh, Kuli Kuli, that's so cool.
It's a great name. I mean, it's very, very catchy, regardless of the actual product that it's named after. I think it sticks in your brain as soon as you hear it. And so I think that's even a really good segue. That so you come back from Africa, from the Peace Corps, you live in the Bay Area. And at what point do you make this jump to, hey, there's something here. I could make this into a business, or just purely like, I want to get people familiarized with this product that has never really made it to the Western US.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's all about like how you define when you make the jump. For me, I came back from the Peace Corps and I had $2,000 in my bank account. So I was like pretty clearly, okay, I need a day job. That was my first priority of like, I can't be living in my parents' house. I need enough money to pay my rent. So first thing I did was actually get a job at a solar finance company. It was a startup. I learned a lot about startups, obviously very different industry, but like nights, weekends, every spare moment was devoted to like, how do I get moringa here to the US? How do I put it in a format that Americans will eat? How do I communicate the benefits of this plant? And so that was actually like a couple year process. So that I got back from Peace Corps in 2011. Our official launch date was 2014.
Okay. Oh, so you guys are coming up on 12, 13 years of Kuli Kuli.
Yeah.
Great run. And when you started to explore how to make this palatable or at least available for the US consumer, what was that first step like? Because obviously it's not available in a co-man. You can't just go, hey, I want to go get the moringa bar you guys make and white label it. How did you take that? Like, I'm actually making it.
Yeah, it was an interesting process. So I think we kind of went like, step by steps. The first step was like, okay, what can we make in our home kitchens? Like what tastes good to us? Second step was like, okay, what can we make in our home kitchens that we can make all of our friends and family try and give us feedback? And like we did not start with just bars. We were like literally kind of throwing everything on the wall. It's like, is it like a superfood hummus? Is it a bite? Is it a, what is this? And kind of landed on like these bars being the first thing to start with. And then we went, okay, cool. We have something that like friends and family say is good, but also friends and family is so biased. So how do we get some outside market validation to show that people are actually going to buy this? And so for us, we thought of farmers markets not as an actual way of like, this is a thing we want to do forever, but as a very cheap consumer insight study. Cheap in the sense that like, it didn't cost us much to set up. Expensive in the sense we spent a lot of time doing it, but our goal, I know. It was crazy. It was crazy. This is 12 years ago. I was younger and had more energy. And it was insane though. Like I would work, a full work week and then all day Saturday, like would be in a commercial kitchen making these Kuli Kuli moringa bars by hand. And then all day Sunday selling them at the market. And we were being at the farmer's market and we were being very intentional on how we sold them. So we really, like I said, weren't seeking to just sell product. We were seeking to gain insights. And so everyone who came by, they tried a product. We like wrote down, okay, what are the demographics? Like male, female, approximate age. Did they have kids with them? What did they like? What did they not like? What did they buy, if anything? And from there, we were trying to get a sense of like, what is our target demographic and what is our conversion rate from sample to sale? And then we took that data to Whole Foods. And so we went to our local Whole Foods NorCal forager, and then eventually the whole body buyer for all of Whole Foods NorCal, and ended up launching in all of NorCal in 2015.
I think it's such a good approach. I personally, my last company, I started the same way: pop up tables, farmers markets, dog rescue events, anything I could do to get someone to
Yeah.
try our coffee. But I think you have a really good perspective of that's not the business. And I think a lot of CPG founders get stuck in this idea that the farmers market's the business. And similarly, I would look at it and say, this is first party trial. This is me interacting. What
Yeah.
when I say something what resonates, when I say something what doesn't. I think that's such a smart move. I didn't even make it to the point of doing demographic studies and conversion rates. So kudos on you guys. You got really far ahead with that. But that's a really, really smart approach there. So one question, just going back, because out of curiosity, you mentioned hummus. How much did the food trends of the time dictate what you guys were thinking about? Because going back to 2014, kind of the heyday of Whole Foods, heyday of organic, natural, a lot of new stuff emerging. Like, what was the driving force? The bars tasted best, or was that kind of like, hey, this seems to be the best pathway for success?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I would say we had no idea what we were doing, right? Like, I had never even worked in food, let alone start a food company. So I think like there were a lot of trends happening and it just sort of like went over my head. I think the thing that I was focused on is like, what is the thing that people will buy that seems to fit with moringa? And the thing that the like, testing, making different products. I think the thing that we learned was like this idea of like half a cup of leafy greens in a bar. I might not know what moringa is, but like I like the idea of getting my greens in a bar and I don't have to like eat a salad. It's like a salad in a bar. That messaging really resonated. And so that felt like, okay, this is something that we can bring to the market. And I will say, before RX listed out everything on the front of their bar, we were putting half a cup of leafy greens, like 2 dates, like on the bar. And that was something that was really resonating.
That's really smart. And I think it's a great approach. You weren't trying to sell moringa directly. It was a little bit more of a kind of lateral sale of, we're going to sell you something that you'll buy, that you'll like, but the core functional ingredient is moringa. So I think that's a really,
Exactly.
really intelligent way to go. And so talk a bit about that first kind of, okay, coming in, you left the farmer's market world, you land Whole Foods. What were those first, few months like? Was that a steep learning curve for you, or did you have someone on the team to help you navigate that retail rollout?
I mean, so I quit my day job like I guess it was actually technically the end of 2013. I quit my day job the end of 2013. Whole Foods launched us, and I'm putting launch in quotation marks for a reason. They launched us effectively January 2014. And it was one of those, and so I was the only one full time. Like I had kind of friends and people helping in different ways, but it was just me. And but we didn't have any money. I wasn't making a salary. I was like off of very cheap rent in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 people. And so I was very much like I was trying to figure it all out and I was just trying to talk to as many smart people as I could. And I think that has been kind of my superpower is just asking for help and like kind of trying to punch above my weight of like, there's no reason why the founders of these big CPG companies should talk to me, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to ask and I'm going to see. And, like one of the nice things about our industry is people are really nice.
They are. I think, and I think if you're genuine about your purpose for going to market and looking for help, everyone has always been very accommodating. I think everyone wants to help people navigate. Obviously, the point of this podcast, a lot of it is to talk about that element itself of what do you do when you go from a farmer's market to a local regional distribution to then now, how many points of distribution do you have? It's 10,000?
Yeah, 11,000 plus. So it's technically 11,000
Yeah,
stores. Points of distribution is higher for us. I don't think we've done like a recalc lately, but it's a lot.
it's a lot. And so when you had that first rollout with Whole Foods, obviously that was probably opening the door for other Whole Foods in the state of California, then regionally. Was that your plan, was to roll out mainly through Whole Foods first, or did you kind of look more broadly at other channels and other retailers?
Yeah. So I think the advice that I heard and the advice I still believe in to this day is like start regionally and like really focus regionally. And so my goal was like, okay, if we can get Whole Foods to bring us into NorCal, then let's build NorCal. So let's go to all of the small natural chains, co-ops, et cetera, in NorCal and like sell it in from there. And then we targeted SoCal. Then we targeted the Pacific Northwest. Then we targeted the Midwest, and then Whole Foods launched us nationwide in 2016. So essentially, like 2 years into the business, and it was almost like every 6 months we were adding a new region, and we were trying to be very focused on like, okay, cool. We've got NorCal locked. Let's do SoCal. We've got SoCal locked. Let's do the Pacific Northwest. And I was like pouring my heart and soul into this. I mean, I would spend for each of those new regions that we opened, I spent probably at least a week, if not 2 weeks, like on the ground doing demos, like trying to get into all of those stores, trying to get people excited, like really trying to ensure that it worked so that we could get that national launch.
Did you have any, I mean, obviously California, very progressive with food and more natural ingredients. And you have that natural product market fit, let's say in California with this. When you move to the Midwest, different demographic, different consumer profile. What was that like? Because I think there's probably a steeper learning curve for that customer versus maybe Oregon. What was that like when you started demoing the
It's
product
really
there?
interesting. A lot of people think that. We actually found the Pacific Northwest to be harder. And I think that is probably because in the Pac Northwest in particular, you have so many options. There's just like so many better for you, healthy, organic, superfood options. And you have a kind of a like non-chain dominated space where you've got so many, PCC, like there new seasons, like there are some chains, some smaller chains. There's also some just like great co-ops. And so we found that the Midwest was actually easier in the sense that we were unique. We like stood out on shelf. I also think it was much easier for me to like crack into the local like Chicago startup scene. Cause I mean, Chicagoans don't hate me, but it was like 10 people, right? Like you could pretty easily understand like, okay, who are the players here? Like, let's go to that happy hour. Let's be a part of this. Let's speak at this event. And that felt like an easy win for us. The Pac Northwest was just harder for me to crack. SoCal was easier, I think, because there was just more SoPac, Whole Foods puts together Southern California and Hawaii. And Hawaii was really interesting because there's like a strong knowledge of moringa, both because it grows there and because it's highly Asian. And there's like a strong, Asian contingent of people that love and know moringa.
That's amazing. So that's interesting that each pocket would have its own little experience. You couldn't treat this nationally as just a uniform rollout. Each one's going to have its own little flavor to it.
And I think that's often the benefit of going regionally and trying to like be thoughtful, because it is different regions operate differently. And we're one country, but like, Chicago and San Francisco are not the same. And rural Illinois and rural California also not the same. So there's just like different ways in approaching that.
That's amazing. And so now companies scale greatly. Obviously, you've added products, you've diversified. I think a way you have new superfoods that you focus on in addition to moringa. What are kind of like the latest or newest hot superfoods? Since you've seen moringa grow, and now that seems to be catching mainstream, and you guys are definitely driving that force forward. But what are some of the other superfoods that have come on the radar that you're really excited about or using in the product line?
Yeah. So, I mean, Kuli Kuli's mission is to like, how do we take all of this ancient wisdom of like these plants that have been used in so many places around the world for a very long time, and how do we bring those plants to the US in partnership with small growing communities? And there are so many cool plants out there. So one of the ones that we added into our lineup about 3 years ago is called baobab. So a lot of people are like somewhat familiar. They've maybe seen it in like their skincare, or, it is used a fair amount in cosmetics. Everyone has seen the tree because we've all seen The Lion King. So we've seen the tree that Rafiki hangs out in, and that gourd that he cracks open, that is in fact baobab. And it's a really cool plant. So the thing that just like boggles my mind is this plant is 50% prebiotic fiber. It's super high vitamins A, vitamins E. It like supports your body's natural collagen production. And yet 95% of the baobab in the world just rots on the forest floor. Nobody collects it because there's no market for it. And so one of the things that we like, there's just like such a huge opportunity of like, cool, how do we create a market for this plant that nobody's heard about? And in doing so, how do we like support literally thousands of sub-Saharan African women to make money by picking these gourds off the forest floor and selling them? It's like the easiest. Just harvesting. Yeah, it's crazy. It's all wild harvested because these plants grow for thousands of years. So it's a pretty cool plant that we've been doing a lot with. So if you look at Kuli Kuli's lineup, I would say we have kind of like two categories of products. So we have our moringa-based products, which tend to be more energy and like detoxification focused. Those are the things that like moringa is really well known for. It's exceptionally good at. And then we have our baobab products, which are really around like skin health, because again, that like promotes your body's natural collagen, the vitamin A, vitamin E. It's amazing. You know, you are what you eat, beauty from within, all of that. Like baobab's the perfect case study for that. And from that prebiotic fiber, it's also very high fiber. So those are kind of the two sets of where we're playing the most. We also, all of our moringa farms grow regeneratively. And so one of the things that means is they're intercropping with other crops. And so one of the crops they're intercropping with a lot is hibiscus. And so we've been doing a lot more with hibiscus in our products because we can actually grow it in the same field as moringa. And, you know, it helps the farmers diversify. It's like better for the ecosystem. Like, I don't know if anyone's been to a regenerative farm, but like, it's one thing that's like a buzzword, whatever. It's another thing to like walk down these fields and you like hear the bees and see the butterflies. And it's like, this is the way nature's supposed to work. Like, this is like a happy plant world. This is like, you know, Disneyland for plants. It's great. It's wonderful. And that's how we see our moringa crop and our, you know, the rest of our plants growing really well. And I think the other thing that people don't think about is they're like, oh, cool, you support small farmers. That's great. You're good for the world. And it's like, no, actually, like the fact that we source directly from small farmers who are growing regeneratively means you're getting the highest quality crop in the world. And it means that it's going to have an outsized impact on your body in a way that if you just go buy whatever random brand of moringa powder on Amazon, it's not going to have the same impact on your body.
That's it. It's you. I think the quality of the soil shows through in the quality of the product. I mean, that goes for every category from coffee to wine to supplements. I mean, I think the way it's produced is so important. Now with so much coming out of labs and greenhouses, you can make the product to look the right way, but it doesn't actually have remotely the same impact. So I think that's a really great approach, and it's great for your customers. What is the serving type for baobab? Is it a consumable product? Is it this powder? Is it a supplement?
Yeah. Good question. So basically, if you imagine these huge trees, they're called the upside down tree. It's like these gnarled roots. Then it's a big gourd, and the gourd drops to the floor, and then drops when it's ripe. And then you crack it open, and inside is like this sort of tannish powder that tastes almost like a sherbet. It's like sort of got this like tangy, like lovely flavor to it. And that powder is what we add it to a lot of our blends. We also add it to our gummies. So one of our best-selling products is called Marine Glow. And so it's made with baobab and marine minerals, and it's all about like skin health and thyroid function. And it's amazingly effective. It also tastes delicious. It's one of my favorite products that we sell.
I would have never guessed it came in a powder. Essentially, it's
I know.
ready. I thought you're going to process it. You're grinding it. You're distilling it.
No. That's the cool part. It's like really like, it's like nature's powder. It's like if you wanted a prebiotic powder, here you go. It's literally rotting on the forest floor. We need to sell more of this.
That kind of like helps lead maybe into some of the retail execution and growth questions of, you've got products that kind of fit in multiple categories. You know, you could position this as a supplement, as a skincare, as a vitamin, as a bar. You know, it sounds like you have a few different places. Where do you focus your efforts in a retailer store? You know, what's set? And then how do you communicate that really with the retailers themselves? If this is supposed to be here, here's why, versus they're making decisions for you.
Yeah. So I think one of the mistakes I made early on was exactly to your point of being like, wow, these plants are just so great. We can do so much with them. Let's put them into bars. Let's put them into chocolate bark. Let's put them into energy shots. Let's like sell them in a lot of different formats across the whole grocery store. And then we realized that like, we don't actually have a big enough of a company to be supporting products in all of the different aisles across the grocery store. And we are getting killed by this. So what we did is we pared back pretty hard. So we killed off probably like 70% of our product line and really just focused on the supplement aisle. So what you will find from Kuli Kuli today, if you walk into any Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, other natural food store, you'll see us in that like superfood, vitamin, whole body. They all call it something different, but in that like superfood set where generally you'll find, cacao nibs, chia seeds, etc. You'll also find Kuli Kuli's moringa powder, our gummies, our blends, our capsules, all there.
And by doing that, did that really help you streamline your kind of supply chain and management? So you're not checking 4 or 5.
Yes. I mean, me and my co-founder joke, we're pretty sure that we sold bars for 5 years because we wanted to lose money. Like
They
we're
never made
like, that was a great way to burn a lot of cash. And then we stopped selling bars. And we're like, cool. Supplements, way better, way higher margin.
Well, and when you went the supplement route, did that open up like D2C becoming a more important channel, places like GNC Vitamin Shop, or have you kind of maintained a natural food grocer as your core customer base?
Yes. So yeah, we do play quite a bit in Vitamin Shop and GNC, and I would say we are growing a lot on D2C, and that's actually one of our big focus areas. Is I think when we look at other supplement and superfood companies, like a lot of them, like 40% of their revenue is digital. And because we started first in retail and, have been doing this for 12 years, we did not start digital. Like the digital, everyone buys everything online. Like I think a lot of people forget, like that's kind of a post-COVID phenomenon. Like the world didn't work quite that way 6 years ago.
No. I remember similarly, I started my coffee company 2013, and we had an online store because I was one man, same thing, hand delivering to Whole Foods, but I was like, I need something. But it wasn't until that, let's say 2018, 2019, paid media got really efficient. But
Yep.
COVID did amplify. I think at 2018, there was 1% of all grocery sales were happening on. And that number, that's the big shift, I think, is post-COVID. You go, oh, well, everyone's buying at least something food related online after 2020. And supplements seem to be really a hot space. I'm jealous because that's such a great product to ship. High margin, low weight. I look at, I was shipping bags. You go, man, this is not the way to do it. But that's really interesting that you guys are kind of leaning into it more now. And with that, how does the retail business either support or compete with the D2C in your mind?
It's interesting, the support or compete. I think it does both, actually. Like, I think it supports in the sense that I see a lot of brands that are entering into CBG be D2C first. And I think for some reasons, there's a lot of reasons why that's really smart. And then there are ways in which when I advertise on Meta, on TikTok, whatever, like people could buy it on TikTok Shop, they could buy it on my website, or they could buy it in 11,000 stores. And so my sort of like ROAS calculation is pretty different than a brand where the only place you can buy it is if you click to purchase on their website or on their TikTok Shop. So I think in some ways it helps to have, the marketing rule of like you have to see something 7 times before you purchase it. It's like most of the stores that you walk into in America, you will find Kuli Kuli's products. So if you like see it online and then you see it in store and you see it again, like, it amplifies. I think the competes is an interesting one. I think one of the things that we find really challenging is the number of resellers on Amazon. And it's really compounded by the fact that like we are distributed in all of these stores. And because of the business that we play in, where, supplements is high margin, it's also high markup, right? So like the amount that I sell to UNFI and then they sell to Whole Foods, etc., like the number is really high. And so when you go, sorry?
Is your category 50 points or above? Or what's that? I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not-
Yeah. I would say you're often seeing 55 at a lot of retailers. So it's like, it's very easy for somebody to say like, cool, I'm going to buy it from Unify and Keiki and like sell it online and make like a couple bucks. And so that has been a big inhibitor on our Amazon business in particular.
And so and on the UNFI side, and then your 11,000 doors, what would you say are some of like the bigger challenges you encounter when it comes to retail? I mean, you've been doing this now for 12 years and you've scaled it, it seems like in a very intentional manner. Product launches have really been streamlined. You're focused in a single category. So you've done things to make it easier. What are some of those bigger challenges or gaps you and the team are always discussing when it comes to retail execution?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest challenge for so many brands is like honestly the same challenge that I remember our Whole Foods forager telling us when we like first got into Whole Foods. He's like, cool. So you're going to think that you made it because you got on the shelf. And the problem isn't getting on the shelf, it's getting the product off the shelf. Like, how do you move velocity? How do you move velocity at retail? And it's like one thing to do it in a small NorCal where it's like literally when we launched into Whole Foods NorCal, I visited single Whole Foods in Northern California. Like there are 53 stores from Sacramento to Fresno, which if you're familiar with California, it's a very large amount of geography. And I visited all of them because I was just that determined to like, how do I sell it in? How do I do these demos? How do I educate the team? Like, I just need to like go hard on this. And I can't do that for 11,000 stores. And so I think we've had to really rely on like, okay, what are the right promotions to put in place? What is the right like advertising around that? I think it's been really interesting as our business has evolved and like the world has evolved, like retail media certainly plays a much bigger play than it has before. Like I've had buyers now tell me that like, why don't you just cut some of the in-store stuff and like put that all online. Like I think Whole Foods Market on Amazon is becoming increasingly important for Whole Foods. I think Instacart is really important for Sprouts. I think like TikTok is providing this halo that is like driving distribution in a really interesting way. And so I actually think that the biggest challenge for me is like we sell products that most people haven't heard of. And so most people don't walk into the store and say, I'm coming into the store to buy moringa powder. Like that's not on most people's grocery lists. And so how do we ensure that they like hear about it, understand the benefits enough that it becomes something that they want to buy and then they want to continue to buy?
Amazing. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's a challenge when you have one state, let alone 50 and 11,000 PVDs or stores that you're handling. It's certainly something where you're focusing on awareness plus acquisition. And in your world, it's almost education is the most important part still. So that's really compelling. So I really have enjoyed all of this conversation. I could talk all day, but I always like to ask one last question before we finish, which is if you could go back 12 years to either talking to Lisa when she's starting this or to a new CPG founder coming into the space, what is one piece of advice you'd give them that you wish you had from the very beginning?
I would stop trying so hard to be big right away and understand the flexibility and the like innovation and creativity that being small gives you. And I think my best example of this was like when we were at the farmers markets, I was like, this is such a pain. I hate doing this. This is so annoying. Why are we doing this? And we did it because we wanted to do it. And I think we did it pretty well in terms of like testing and learning, but we didn't learn, I think, as much about our packaging, about our customer, a value prop as we could have before we then scaled up with a co-packer and, we're producing like 50,000 bars at a time. And I have this thought all the time today where I'm like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could go back and just do some more like testing and iterating and really refining things before launching it. And I think a lot of times when I talk to founders, they're like, I just need to go raise $3 million and then I'm going to launch nationwide and then I'm going to like succeed. And I'm like, wait a minute, what can you do today before you raise all the money to ensure that you have the best possible product and that you've tested the heck out of it such that when you scale it up, it succeeds? Because it's actually very easy to scale. It's very hard to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. I think people think money is going to solve the problem, but if people don't want what you're making, or you haven't figured out how to add value to their day or their cart or their life before you start really scaling, then all you're doing is lighting cash on fire. You're going to end up products sitting around, promos like crazy, trying to hustle to raise funds. I guess that's the last little kind of talking point I'd love to hear. But based on your background being in the Bay Area, starting this in kind of like the real exciting time for tech, which I think of that 2010 to 2015 range. There's so much happening. There's a lot of fun, investment in the space, different ideas. How much did that influence your approach with building a CPG brand? Because obviously, if you're coming out of, let's say, Iowa, you don't have the same exposure, but seeing brands like Blue Bottle, Phil's kind of come out of that farmer's market world, but also have tech Did that play a role in anything that you were doing, or were you kind of isolated?
Yes and no. I think it certainly played a role in terms of like the founders that I have surrounded myself with. Like a lot of them run tech companies. I actually think it's playing even more of a role now because I think AI is transformative. And I think it can be very transformative for CPG, both in a sense of like how you run your business, how you run your operations, how you run your trade spend, how you do your content generation, how you evaluate your sales decks. There's like so much there. And I think the future of commerce is agentic commerce. And so one of the things we're thinking a lot about is like a future where everybody asks Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, like, what's the best hair growth supplement? What's the best, what's the best thing I can take to give me more energy? And we want them to be thinking of us. And I think that's where a lot of brands just aren't spending enough time. And so I think the fact that we're in the Bay Area and we're surrounded by people who do this is actually a real win for us.
No, 100%. We at my company, Eileen, are all in on AI being a solution for CPG, but I think you do have that CPG traditionalist who's much more making it in the kitchen to, everything is much more, you got to be able to touch it, feel it, but AI is going to drastically change. I think the shopping experience, the operational experience, the way you can build and grow brands. I wish we had it going back to the days where I was writing every Facebook post for 8 years and every Instagram post, every email.
Yes.
And my God, I could have saved so much time. If I would have just had one of these tools, it could have saved me a lifetime of work. And even with Eileen, like what we do and what we've tried to eliminate is that whole question of like, well, back when you were growing your business and you say, well, I've got distribution gaps or I've got slow velocity and I can't see. So I call my parents. I'm like, can you guys go by and look at these 2 stores for me? Like I haven't got, right? Like it's trying to break down these barriers that we've just dealt with for years that I think now are all solvable. And that's the exciting part if you're a CPG company. You could do so much.
Totally.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your time. Anyone that's interested in finding Kuli Kuli, obviously can find it 11,000 stores, can find it online. Any key promotions or things that you want to point out?
Yeah. So KuliKuliFods, KuliKuliFoods.com. I would say Whole Foods has every single product of ours. You can find all 15 SKUs there. Also, if you want to look up a store locator, we have that on our website. And of course, you can buy us on our own website and on Amazon as well. And would love for folks to try it. And we have a 30-day no questions asked refund policies. So if you're even moringa or baobab curious, try it. And if you don't like it, return it.
Amazing. I will be trying both of them. I like moringa already. I'm excited to try baobab. I'm getting a little older, so the collagen stuff sounds like it could be helpful.
Yes. I don't know. Your skin looks pretty great. So.
No, I appreciate your time. And again, this is just amazing what you've built. I'm excited to see it continue to expand. And thank you for bringing great products to consumers everywhere and making it affordable. And if anything we talked about today sounds familiar, or if you are hoping to get visibility in your store or on the shelf, come visit us at shopwitheileen.com. Sign up. We'll give you a free demo anytime. Stores on demand. Give your team a little bit less time in the field and more time selling. So thank you. And as always, know thy shelf.